Hello guys, welcome back to Amstein TV. In today's video, we bring to you another showpiece and another top discovery around the continent of Africa, and that is the top 10 most terrorized countries in the African region. Which are the most terrorized countries? As we have rightly said, the Global Terrorism Index has released a report ranking the most terrorized countries in Africa, with so many of them featuring in the Sub-Saharan Africa. So the Global Terrorism Index report indicates that terrorism deaths in Sub-Saharan Africa have increased by 8%, with 60% of all terrorism deaths globally occurring in this region. So the report also identifies four of the 10 countries with the largest deteriorations in the Global Terrorism Index score to be located in Sub-Saharan Africa. With 10, Chad. Chad has been grappling with terrorism for years, making it the 10th most terrorized country in Africa. Boko Haram, an Islamic extremist group based in Nigeria, has carried out numerous attacks in Chad's border regions, resulting in many deaths and displacement. In addition, the country also faces threat from other groups, including the Islamic State in the Greater Sahara and Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb. 9. Egypt. Egypt is ranked the ninth most terrorized country in Africa, as it has been targeted by several terrorist groups in recent years. The most notable of these groups is the Islamic State Sinai province, which has carried out numerous attacks in the Sinai Peninsula and occasionally targeted major cities such as Cairo. In addition to the threat from ISIS, Egypt also faces terrorism from other groups such as Ansar Bait al-Makis and Ahazin. 8. DR Congo. The Democratic Republic of the Congo is facing a range of security threats, including armed conflict, intercommunal violence, and the presence of extremist groups such as the Allied Democratic Forces, that is the ADF. The ADF, which originated in Uganda, has carried out attacks on civilians, causing displacement and humanitarian crisis. The situation in the DR Congo is further complicated by the ongoing issues of the outbreak of numerous diseases and pandemic. 7. Mozambique. Mozambique is facing an insurgency in its northern province of Cabo Delgado, where Islamist extremist groups affiliated with ISIS have established a foothold. The insurgency, which began in 2017, has resulted in attacks on civilians, displacement, and destruction of infrastructures. The country is currently the seventh most terrorized country in Africa. 6. Cameroon. Cameroon, the sixth most terrorized country in Africa, is grappling with a security crisis in its Anglophone regions as separatist groups demand independence from the preliminary and primarily Francophone government. The conflict has caused confrontations between the security forces and armed separatists, leading to assault on civilians, resulting in massive displacement and humanitarian crisis. Besides the Anglophone crisis, Cameroon is also facing a threat from Boko Haram, which has launched assault on both civilians and security personnel in the country's northern regions. 5. Niger. Niger experienced a significant decline in terrorism attacks and deaths in 2022, with deaths falling to their lowest level since 2019. Despite this, Niger is still the fifth most terrorized country in Africa, and civilian casualties assaulted and accounted for 60% of the total death toll. Boko Haram became the deadliest terrorist group in the country, responsible for 44 deaths in 2022 till Barbary province and continues in the hardest hit region. 4. Nigeria. Nigeria currently faces multiple security challenges, including the Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast, separatist movement in the north, and we see the southeast, and intercommunal violence in various parts of the country. Boko Haram, which seeks to be established and in the state, and other aspect, which is the Islamic State in Nigeria, has carried out suicide bombings, kidnappings, and attacks on civilians, causing wide and widespread displacement and humanitarian crisis. The deadliest terrorist group in Nigeria for the third consecutive year was ISWA, with a lethality rate of 3.7 deaths per attack, which is an increase from the previous year. 3. Mali. As the third most terrorized country in Africa, Mali has been facing a complex security crisis characterized by armed conflict, terrorism, and intercommunal violence. In 2024, Mali recorded its highest number of deaths due to terrorism in the last decade, even as the number of attacks from ISIS and GNIM decreased, despite the country's focus on restoring constitutional order and civilian rule following the coup of May this year. Security responses with numerous strategies have been ineffective in protecting Malians from violent attacks by extremist groups. 2. Somalia. Somalia has been facing political instability and violence for decades. The country has been struggling with a civil war, clan conflict, and attacks by Islamic extremist groups such as Al-Shabaab. These groups have carried out suicide bombings, assassinations, and attacks on civilians and government officials, causing widespread fear and displacement. Despite effort by the Somali government and international partners to restore peace, the situation in Somalia remains fragile. And finally, 1. Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso is Africa's most terrorized country with a record high of 310 attacks in 2022, a base and a 50% increase from previous year, and over half of the 1,135 deaths in previous year being civilians. The majority of attacks occur near the borders with Nigeria and Benin, talk of Mali, with Niger as well. So the Sahel region experiencing the highest number of deaths, civilians were the most targeted group for the fourth year running, accounting for over 57% of all terror-related deaths, with GNIM being the leading terrorist group, despite GNIM claiming responsibility for most terror attacks. 88% of attacks and 87% of death was attributed to unknown jihadis. So, guys, those were the top 10 most terrorized countries in Africa, as we have listed and we have clearly explained. In case you have other to add, section is open. Although we have 20 of them on our list, but we have decided to share the top 10. So guys, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share the video if you find it interesting, as we bring you more top 10 discussions.